welcome everybody to another week of the Commanders Film Room. I'm joined today with my my co-hosts, my good friends Nick Ackridge and Mark Bullock. Gentlemen, we talked about it pre-show before we got on here. We're dedicated, huh? 31-0 loss to the Vikings last week. JJ McCarthy looked excellent. Definitely a pretty difficult performance to watch, but we'll break it down in a moment. Guys, we're here every Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Definitely give us a follow. Give all of us a follow on X or on YouTube. You can find this show every Wednesday at 4 o'clock on the Big Doug and Carmi show on Wednesday. Mark Bullock has his Substack. We know Nick from PFF. Definitely give us, some follow and interact with us online. So, gentlemen, 31-0, coming off of a pretty inspired performance against the Denver Broncos, where we lost, but we are no longer lost. But we looked pretty damn lost on Sunday, guys. It was pretty ugly, to be honest with you. And the topic of our show today is going to be Jayden Daniels and our defense, obviously because of a 31 lopsided loss. Nick, we'll start off with you. Throughout the season, we've been going through the breakdowns, all 22. We were, early in the season, kind of advocating for Joe Witt, talking about his scheme. Maybe a lack of talent on the defense. Where do you stand now? 31-0. Dan Quinn's calling the defense now. Have you seen any improvement? And is this more of a personnel issue or a scheme issue altogether, in your opinion?
Well, we saw a brief improvement for a couple weeks there, but this past week was about as bad as it got for the defense. And you can't lump it into all kind of one thing. It's not just scheme. It's not just players. It's a giant mix of both. Where the scheme has at times put some players in some tough spots, and when this style of defense doesn't get pressure home, it's tough to cover. And they have not gotten pressure at all without trying to come up with some unique blitzes and stuff like that. But then there's times where players are just not executing. Like you have guys that are supposed to be day one starters. They were day one starters, guys you're supposed to count on that are just making kind of simple mistakes over and over again. So it's a mix of both. And it's about as bad as an NFL defense can look.
Yeah, looked pretty rough. JJ McCarthy, I believe the Vikings lost 7 of their last 8 games. JJ McCarthy was struggling consistently throughout the year. He's statistically he struggled more against man. We played predominantly zone against him the entire game.
They didn't play a single rep of man coverage.
Wow, I knew it was a huge discrepancy. I didn't know it was actually 0. So that's definitely something to talk about. We'll discuss in our show today, which is, it led to JJ McCarthy to do pretty well on Sunday, which was definitely disappointing. Mark, that being said, the most important person in DC besides the president is the quarterback of the Washington football team. And Jayden Daniels, he came back. He played pretty poorly, to be honest with you, then left about midway through the game because of a re-aggravating of his elbow. It's kind of hindsight's 20/20, but give me your honest opinion. Where were you with that Jayden Daniels should play the rest of the year, and where are you now?
Yeah, I think we discussed it when we did that sort of mid-season review after he had that injury, the elbow one, where we kind of talked about, like, at that point it looked like he was going to be done for the rest of the season. So we were saying, well, he's probably shut down. But you mentioned at the end, well, there's speculation it could only be a few games. And I said, if it's only a few games, like sitting him for the entire rest of the season, that's a lot of missed opportunities to develop. And 5 games is a lot of games. So I was definitely on board with him coming back, assuming he was fully cleared to play. And I'm pretty sure, given how conservative they have been with him, that they wouldn't have put him out there without him being fully cleared to play. So I was fully on board with him coming back. Him re-aggravating it, there's always a chance of re-aggravating an injury. There's always a chance of him getting another injury. That's just the nature of playing football. So if you're going to hold a guy out in case they get hurt for 5 games, it's like, what are we doing here? Like, he's going to have to play at some point. So you can only protect him so much. So I was definitely on board with putting him back out there. I think the question gets more interesting now. My thought was, if it was 1 or 2 games left in the season when he'd come back, maybe you hold him out at that point. There's not a huge amount to be gained for 1 or 2 games at the end of the year of a dead rubber year. My kind of tipping point was the 3-game mark. It's like 3 games is still enough. So it's going to be interesting with him being held out for this week. That's going to leave 3 games left. If he comes back the following week, that's where it kind of, I think at 3 games, you probably still put him back out there. And then you start getting towards, 2 games, is it worth it sort of thing. So that's where the discussion gets more interesting. But I was fully on board with putting him back out there for 5 games.
Do you guys have any energy either way about Marcus Mariota playing this week? Like, do you think like there's something deeper that we don't see? Do you think it's a smart decision to kind of protect Jayden? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think the whole point of bringing Jayden back was to play him and get him valuable reps. And if he was healthy, I think they would stick with that, because there'd be 0 point in benching him for poor performance, right? Because you want the whole point of him coming back right now is to get him to play through these reps and learn and develop. So that would be pointless of benching him because he's not playing and learning and developing. So I don't think there's anything in. I think if he was healthy and he was cleared to play, he would play, certainly this week. So no, I don't think there's anything else going on there.
Gotcha, Nick. You kind of agree with that too?
Yep, I think he's spot on with it all. That's where I kind of lean on all of it.
All right, sounds good. I want to throw it over to Mark and kind of tell us what we're looking at.
Cool. So a big part of the game was obviously Washington's offense scored 0 points, and there was a lot of the time where Jayden Daniels was running around and looking under pressure. And I thought we would start by looking at the fact that the Vikings defense is actually really good, and Brian Flores is ridiculously aggressive, but also very fun defensive coordinator to watch.
Yes,
when you're not on the other side of it. I think every offensive coordinator that faces the Vikings at the start of the week goes, "Oh God, I've got to face this guy and come up with some sort of protection plan against this." So I thought I would just start by demonstrating just how aggressive this Vikings defense is and all the kind of things that you have to try to prepare for, and then look into how Washington tried to kind of deal with that and how Jayden in particular dealt with that. So first, this play and the next play come from the start of the 2-minute drill just before the half. So it was like 1 minute 40. Washington had 3 timeouts. The Vikings had 3 timeouts. They're at about the 30, so there's plenty of time left in the game. So there's no necessarily rhyme or reason to being aggressive. But Brian Flores will just go aggressive at any given time for no reason at all. And this is 1st and 10, and you can see he's got 7 guys lined up on the line of scrimmage here, and he might not necessarily blitz all 7, but you have to be prepared for if all 7 come. And on this occasion, he does decide to blitz all 7. And so what Washington does is they actually do a pretty good job here, because this is what's known as cover 0, right? So you have every eligible receiver has a defender guarding them. So you've got this corner out here covering Terry McLaurin. You got this safety covering Zach Ertz. He's just kind of disguising it by sitting in the middle of the field. We'll come back to this part. Remember this later, that he's so far off Ertz. And then we got corners over the 2 receivers to this side. One of the linebackers in the middle of here will be matching up on the running back. But they know that if we blitz everyone, the running back's more than likely going to stay in to protect, so we don't have to really worry about that. And what this does is it guarantees that the defense is bringing 1 more rusher than what the offense can handle, because you've got 6 guys blocking, you've got 7 guys rushing. So what that means is the quarterback has to be the guy that accounts for the 7th rusher. And the Commanders actually do a good job up front here. What they do is they block up everyone inside, and they leave the guy off the left edge with who has the longest path to Jayden Daniels unblocked, because they know that they have this quick out to Terry McLaurin, so Jayden can see him and throw over him to beat that. So this is a really nice, well, it's a really aggressive scheme on 1st and 10 from the Vikings, and the Commanders actually handle it pretty well. And you can see as we run it through, Jayden snaps the ball, he gets to the top of his drop, he's got the free rusher in his face, but they pick up everyone else, and he knows he has to account for this guy by beating him with the throw, and that's exactly what he does. You got the guy in man coverage playing off against Terry, which you're always going to be happy to run a quick out route and hit Terry with that and pick up a nice 6 yards. So that's a really nice play. Again, you can see it up front here. You've got all these guys rushing. This guy is the safety, Harrison Smith. He's going to come free off the edge, and that's the guy Jayden's got to account for. Your running back's going to step up and block this linebacker, I think, and everyone else is going to pick things up. So you get everyone accounted for, with the quarterback accounting for the free rusher, and you throw that ball over the top, and you hit Terry McLaurin for a quick out. So that's a really nice way to beat a cover 0 on 1st and 10. Now, the Vikings and Brian Flores don't care if you beat it on 1 play. This is the very next play, 2nd and 4. They're going to line up the exact same way and do the exact same thing. And I think Jayden Daniels probably wasn't necessarily expecting them to go all out blitz here. He probably thought they might send one or two guys, but having just beaten a cover zero, he probably wasn't expecting them to give it all out blitz again. But it is literally the exact same look. You've got that safety in the middle off of Ertz, and I think that's probably where he wants to go here. But again, we'll come back to that. Terry runs a slightly different route. He runs kind of a spot route and I think the idea is the running back's meant to flare out to the flat, but he stays in to protect. And what happens is I think Jayden gets a little bit surprised, as I said, with this one where he's not expecting it to be cover zero again. If he did, they would just run the exact same thing with the speed out. I think he initially opened his hips, and I think he wants to hit Ertz, and that would probably have been a safe bet because this safety is playing off to disguise it. But Ertz runs what's known as a sight adjustment, so he can see that this safety's miles off. He can see that it's a cover zero blitz, so he kind of just sits down as like, "Hey, I'm here. Throw the ball to me." And I think Jayden probably could, and in retrospect, would have just thrown this ball. But I think he feels, oh no, it's cover zero. I've got to go back to Terry on this outside here. What he does do a nice job of is identifying, okay, the play is busted. I'm not going to try and make this into anything else. And he throws it at the feet of Terry McLaurin. So it doesn't get intercepted. He doesn't get sacked. It's not a negative play. So it keeps it in third and manageable. So again, we'll see it here. He kind of looks straight at Zach Ertz or towards this side to see this safety. And this safety is a good, you can see sort of 10 yards off of Zach Ertz. He could quite easily hit that. But I think he just panics a little bit thinking, oh no, it's cover zero. My guy in cover zero is Terry, as we just saw on the previous play. And then he's got this free rusher off the edge that he has to account for. Again, this isn't the offensive line's fault. They brought one more than the offensive line can pick up. This is Jayden Daniels' guy to account for, and Jayden throws it, does a really nice job of not getting intercepted, throws it at Terry's feet, and just moves on, lives to fight another day, which is good progress from him, right?
And Mark, to his credit, like I felt like throughout the day, Jayden seemed rushed. Like I think he was a rusher. Maybe it's definitely pressure packages coming at him. But I think for the most part, he got rid of the ball quickly, safely. He got rid of it and kind of discarded the ball. I guess my question is, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. Was there answers from Cliff Kingsbury? It felt like maybe he might have been outmatched. Maybe I don't know the correct answer to that. Or
yeah, there were some answers which are coming up in the next few clips, and there were some not answers, or there were some adjustments from the Vikings that were prepared for those answers. So we'll get to that shortly. I
think that like the second down one especially, I think that one you just kind of chalk up to, okay, Brian Flores is a madman.
Yeah.
Who throws back to back, or who shows back to back cover zero and blitzes both times, especially after you just got
down.
So like
no third down involved.
That one you just chalk up to, okay, good call, you got it. And the thing with like the Cliff, adjustments and all that sort of stuff, I think Flores just kind of really had him every single time, where it turns like in terms of whether Cliff thought they were bringing all seven or whether they were not, kind of like I think that they always kind of guessed wrong, because the Commanders sort of did. And you'll see that pretty much with this play as well. But that's kind of summed up really just this drive. Like this drive was kind of the big one where he just brought, that mug look every single play pretty much.
Yeah. So Washington converted on third down. They did a nice job converting on third down. So on the next play, 1st and 10, again, Brian Flores lines up all these guys on the line of scrimmage, and he shows the same cover zero look that we've seen before, but he's actually bluffing it. And this is really nice defensive scheme and layering of concepts. I talked about earlier how this safety was sitting off and pretending to play deep to kind of disguise the coverage, but he was actually responsible for Ertz the whole time. And they showed that the previous two plays to try to bait Jayden Daniels to go to Ertz with that quick sight adjustment, because everyone knows that Zach Ertz is his go-to guy in those kind of situations. Ertz is a really smart player that knows to see that safety playing off and sit down and catch that ball underneath. And that's exactly what the Vikings were trying to bait into on this play, where this linebacker that had previously blitzed on the two cover zeros, he steps forward initially and then pops out late right into that throwing window. It's a really, really nice design. It's a really nice change up for the cover zero stuff. And they were trying to, as I say, they were trying to bait this. Washington doesn't fall for that. They try to go back to this Terry thing, and Jayden just misses it. But you'll see it again here as we run it through. This linebacker starts. He gets Sam Cosmi to commit to blocking him, and then he pops out late and he runs into that throwing window. And you can just see if Jayden had tried to force that in there, he might still have been able to do it. But that linebacker was a real threat to him. And what that meant is this safety could then cheat over to try to help Terry. and this corner could stay kind of a little bit more outside on Terry rather than playing inside. He's still playing a little bit inside, but he could play a little bit more over the top and more outside than he did on the previous one. And then Jayden, he just misses the throw on this one to Terry. It's not quite there, and he again gets out of it without giving up a negative play. He just sets up 2nd and 10. Again, just watch this guy. He steps forward, gets Cosme to commit. He literally makes contact with him, forcing Cosme to commit so that Cosme can't just slide across and the whole line can't just adjust and slide across and pick this guy up. So they still get the benefit of the free rusher from the cover 0. It's just a really, really nicely schemed design. And then he pops out into that throwing lane. Again, if you want to be really picky, he maybe still could make this because this guy comes off a little bit too late, but he's trying not to fall into this trap, and he doesn't. So that's a positive for Jayden Daniels, right? And what he does is he basically throws it away. He tries to hit Terry, but he kind of throws it away more than trying to hit Terry. So that's the kind of things that Flores can do. Is any down, any distance, he will line up with these 7 or 8 guys on the line of scrimmage, and he will more than happily blitz them the entire game, or he will, switch up and have some guys drop off and some guys rush, and you never know which ones are coming. So it makes it really, really hard for an offense and a protection plan to pick these guys up. And so how did Jayden Daniels and how did Cliff, as you mentioned, how did they handle that?
The funny thing about that drive is the part that I mentioned, like they kind of kept guessing wrong, because again, that was another 1st and 10 where he sent all of them. The very next play was 2nd and 10. He sent them all again. I'm pretty sure. And couldn't really, he dropped them out on 2nd and 10, I believe, and then dropped them out again on 3rd and 10. And they had a screen kind of called up expecting that sort of blitz. And again, they just kind of kept guessing wrong that whole time. And when you're kind of playing a Brian Flores defense, you can't really kind of assume anything, because he's going to just be completely non-traditional with everything that he does. And it's why they're so effective.
Yeah. Talking about how Cliff and Jayden tried to deal with this different pressure package. So this is a completely separate drive, but we've seen how Flores will be very aggressive, line these guys up and show this pressure look and make you have to respect the chance. There is a legitimate chance that all of these guys could rush at any given time. So one of the ways they try to deal with it, and one they maybe could have done it a little bit more, we'll see it from this one, is Jayden sees all these guys up on the line of scrimmage, so he does a little subtle hand signal there to Noah Brown, telling him, we've got one-on-one on the outside here. I'm just run a fade. We're throwing it out to you. We're giving you a shot, right? And this is a way Washington has handled the blitz a lot in the past. If you remember, there was the touchdown to Terry McLaurin last year in the Bengals game, week 3, the one that kind of announced him. It was a very similar situation where it was a big blitz and Jayden checked to it and Terry ran by the guy. And I'm not quite sure why they aren't checking to it with Terry rather than Noah, but Noah Brown was one of the league leaders in DPI penalties, drawing DPI penalties last year. So that might be part of the reason why they did that. So they go to Noah Brown, they audible to a little fade, and he just throws it up, and Noah gets dragged over and gets the DPI penalty. So again, here you can just see just a little subtle hand signal there saying, okay, I think I might be getting cover 0. I might not, but there's a pretty good chance I could be getting it, and we're getting it one-on-one on the outside, so I'm going to take my shot to Noah Brown, and that's what he did. They didn't end up going cover 0. They ran a little simulated pressure here and got a free rusher up the middle. That happens. We'll go more into that a little bit later. But it was a solution that did work because they got the DPI. And maybe if they had a little bit more than the 4 drives that they had with Jayden on the field, they might have got to a couple of shots with Terry down the field on that kind of thing later in the game. But the way the Vikings possessed the ball for such a long time, it kind of limited their opportunities. So that was one way. The more frequent way that they tried to do it was screens. And this was one that worked. So this was 3rd and 14. You can see that they're quite a ways away from the first down marker here. Flores gets everyone on the line of scrimmage. They're showing that cover 0 look again. And Jayden Daniels recognizes that. So he goes up to the line of scrimmage and he says, hey, makes a signal to his guys, let's check into a new play. We'll check into a screen. And you've got a real favorable look for a screen here because you've got the slot defender kind of cheating inside and Zach Ertz can kind of try and pin him inside. You've got Terry blocking a guy out here, and then the only guy responsible for Debo is this deep safety that's 20 yards off the ball, right? So it's a really good look to check into, and that's what that was what they would have game planned going into the week, which is if we get this kind of look, we can check into these screens and try to hit those, and that's good on Cliff for preparing him that way, and good on Jayden for recognizing and getting into that check, and then you run the play on and you get the not quite the look you're after because some of these guys bails out, but they're so far in the middle of the field because they all started on the line of scrimmage. You still get pretty much the effect of the look you're after. Zach Ertz goes and makes a nice block. Terry McLaurin makes a nice block. Debo catches the ball on the flat. And then you got a safety 20 yards deep, and you got two guys in the middle of the field that shouldn't be able to catch up to Debo. And Debo is able to go and make that play and pick up that first down. So that's a really nice way of handling a cover zero look. But as Nick said, not every time they would run cover zero. A lot of the times they would expect the Commanders to be checking into these kind of things, and they would have change-ups. So this is another example where I don't think they checked into this. Maybe I'm wrong. I didn't see it, but I think this was just the call play on this situation. And Brian Flores again has all the guys lined up on the line of scrimmage, so they may well have checked into basically the exact same play that we just saw. The difference is here we've got Andrew Van Ginkel out here, and he had seen it on the previous one where this was the kind of route that they ran with Debo lined up and Zach Ertz outside of him. So Debo was effectively playing the tight end at this point, and Ertz was playing the slot receiver at this point, right? And so this was the same look that they had on the previous play, and Van Ginkel had seen it, and he's a really, really smart edge rusher that understands that, this is the look we saw last time. So he is meant to rush on this play. It is only a 4-man rush. They're actually bailing out of this look, and he's meant to be one of the 4-man rushers. But he identifies what this is, and so instead of joining the rush, he smartly peels off, feels Debo running to the flat, and he peels off and he takes that away. And he's like, no, you're not running this screen on me. And the Vikings had a little bit better of a look to deal with it, even if they had managed to complete it. But Van Ginkel basically kills that play there. Jayden panics a little bit in the pocket at that point because it's like, well, this was my one and only option really, and it's not there, so I've got to try to do something. He ends up trying to throw it anyway, and it ends up being broken. So it's not a great play, but again, it's not a hugely negative play. But the point of that one was to show you don't run these things at a guy like Andrew Van Ginkel too often because he is super smart and he recognizes it. As Jayden found out a little bit later on in the game, what happened to be his last play of the game, right? So this was, what was it, 4th and 1, 4th and 3, something like that. They decided to go for it, and they get a very similar look from the Vikings. Everyone starts lining up on the line of scrimmage, and so what does Jayden do? He recognizes that this might be cover zero, so he goes up to the line of scrimmage and he changes the play. He gives a signal to Terry, and Terry motions out here, and what they're going to run instead is a little tunnel screen. Where they try to get everyone out in front blocking it, and we get Terry coming back into the ball. And, in theory, it's a really nice answer to a cover zero blitz. If everyone rushes, you hit this out here and you get 3 blockers out in front against these 3 defenders, and it's potentially a touchdown, especially this close to the red zone. Unfortunately, you've got this man, Andrew Van Ginkel, here again. And he's already seen one screen, and he's already seen Jayden check to a screen. So once again, he's a really, really smart guy, and he's a guy you have to recognize will understand this kind of thing, and you just don't check to a screen to his side of the field. Unfortunately, Jayden did, and Van Ginkel comes off the line of scrimmage. He doesn't try to blitz. A lot of them actually bail out because it is a coverage play. He's meant to be rushing, but he doesn't rush up the field. He rushes towards where he thinks the screen is going, gets his hands up, blocks it, and then tips it himself and catches it. Great play by Van Ginkel. Fantastic play by him. It's something that he's done multiple times before, including to Sam Howell a few years ago in Washington when he was with the Dolphins. So it's something that he has a history of, and that it's specifically why you don't do it to him. But that was something, obviously, that it's clear one of the ways that Washington wanted to handle the cover zero stuff was to be able to check to those screens. And it worked the first time you did it, but then Van Ginkel is a really smart guy, and it's really hard to fool him more than once. And he quite clearly took it away the next 2 times that they did it.
I was going to ask both of you guys. So, as more of a casual observer, it seems like we disproportionately use screens a lot in our offense. I don't know if it's a Cliff Kingsbury thing or something that Jayden feels comfortable with. Is it like am I overreacting? Is that are we kind of dipping into that well too much? In your opinion, or what are your thoughts on the whole screen? How does it compare relative to the rest of the league?
It's a Cliff thing. It's a staple of his offense.
Okay.
They love the screen. It's the one kind of gripe that I have. I think that he does use screens too often. So this play is actually kind of a good example of this, because the previous play, it was 3rd and 3. I can't remember exactly what they ran, but they passed it again on 3rd and 3. And this was the drive coming out of the half where they ran the ball really well that entire drive. So that's kind of my one gripe with him, where we kind of get to these short yardage situations where at this point, you're going to go for it on 4th down if you don't get it on 3rd. I would like for him to run the ball twice. I think in 3rd and 3, 4th and 3, I think, on 3rd and 3, I think you run it, and then you hopefully would get yourself to a 4th and 2, 4th and 1 situation. And I think far too often he goes to these screen plays. I think he passes it too often on short yardage situations. It worked a lot last year. I just don't think it's the best kind of process, because it does rely a lot of times on, Jayden making some sort of hero play, which he did a lot of the times last year. Overall, I'm not a huge screen guy, but it's essentially a run play for Cliff. It's just a way to get a wide run play and get the ball in the hands of other playmakers, basically.
And that would be the way Cliff would argue it back.
Yep.
To what Nick's saying is, it is essentially a run play for them. And when they run all their RPOs and stuff, it's always a bubble screen or a tunnel screen attached to a run play, and they basically consider it a different run play. And if they get the better numbers out there, and then they throw the screen. So, and it's a relatively safe thing to check to against screens, against blitzes and stuff as well. So that's something that they have in their sort of playbook that they'll check to quite a lot. It's
like a multiple wrinkle potentially. They can screen.
It's something that's a relatively safe answer to a lot of different things. And I get Nick's gripe with Cliff not running the ball enough, and I kind of agree with that. But Cliff's answer to what Nick said on 4th and short, that they pass a little bit too often. Cliff's response to that would be, we're putting the ball in the hands of our best player in Jayden Daniels. He has the chance to pass it, but he also is capable of running and picking up the first down himself, because he's that. And
that starts a whole other debate of whether or not that we think he's running too much in the first place. But we could spend hours on that. But for me, screens, it's also sometimes kind of tough. It adds in a little bit, because there's always a factor of a drop. But then you're kind of also asking guys that aren't typically paid to block pretty well. And if you aren't kind of hitting those blocks, and then you can see a lot of failed screenplays pretty easily. Zach Ertz, bless his heart, is not the greatest blocker. We saw that he had a great block on that last screen one, but usually it's not too great. Terry's not a great screen blocker either. So if it's not going to him, it's tough to kind of ask him to make a block. Whereas when you've got the big guys in the middle, I would much rather run behind Sam Cosmi than I would rather run behind Zach Ertz, basically. And that's kind of my thing with the screen game, is that I think that you are then relying on people to block who aren't really paid to block. And especially as we get further down into the depth chart, you've got guys that are also, again, out there trying to block. So that's just kind of my thing. It's just a difference in philosophy, basically. I talked about it a little bit where someone asked me, why they don't do under center play action. And again, it's the same difference of philosophy. This is Cliff's way of, like Mark said, you can add things on top of this. You can add to the RPO game, similar to how those teams that run a lot of under center stuff can add that run, add the play action onto that, add everything that kind of looks the same. So just difference in opinions, difference in philosophy of how you can do it. And I can't really argue against Cliff. He's definitely had a lot of success doing it. So
yeah, and Nick is totally fair in the way he views it as well. Like a lot of the best offenses in the league are the guys that are the Kyle Shanahan tree, the Sean McVay tree, Ben Johnson, those kind of guys that will go get under center and run the ball a lot and run play action off of the same looks and sort of things. You see that there's a reason that offense is spread around the league. It's incredibly effective. So there's definitely merit to what Nick's saying. But there's a lot of different ways to run offense and a lot of different philosophies out there. So it's just a difference of opinion. That's the way it goes.
We could probably spend hours on that one, that one topic.
Quick aside, so obviously Zach Ertz, we know what happened to him later on in the game. Our thoughts are with him. Who would be the best replacement for him moving forward? Because it seemed like there isn't a natural replacement for him. Like John Bates is a great blocker, as we know. Sinnott seems like more of like a yards after catch kind of guy, where Zach Ertz was kind of more of a, I'm going to kind of fall into the zone and be like a option for Jayden Daniels. Like, who do you want to see moving forward? Who do you think will be there moving forward?
Sinnott has to be the answer. Like, there's no reason for him to not. The thing that was pretty worrying is that Colson Yankoff is getting more reps than him, basically.
I saw that.
And that's pretty concerning. I thought that Sinnott did pretty well earlier in the season in terms of blocking and stuff like that. But he's got to be the natural replacement. If you see Colson Yankoff, no offense to him, if he's watching this, getting more routes than Ben Sinnott, then that's a problem, because you spend a pretty high pick on someone that you did expect to kind of come right in. And like you said, John Bates is not going to really kind of step into that role. John Bates is very good in his role. So yeah, I think it's got to be Sinnott.
Yeah, I'm actually writing an article on Bates, Sinnott versus Yankoff for tomorrow, and I would like it to be Sinnott, but I think you have to change the offense. I don't think you can replace what Zach Ertz brought to the offense with the guys you currently have. Nobody has the same feel for him for spotting up in zones, and nobody has the same ability to attack leverage and create separation with their route running that Ertz does. You have to adjust the offense. You're going to have to adjust it either way for one of these athletic guys, whether it's Sinnott or Yankoff. You're going to have to try to get them more vertical up the seams. You're going to have to try to get them more sort of crossing routes, catching the ball, running after the catch kind of things, in compared to what you did with Ertz. So I think you have to change the offense regardless. But I personally, like Nick, I'd like to see Sinnott. I think he did a really good job blocking even in this game compared to Yankoff, who they seem to be favoring him. I don't really see why. But if Yankoff comes in and does great, then that offsets the loss of if Sinnott ends up being a miss, because you got Yankoff as an undrafted free agent, and if he works out, then great. Then it works
for players.
It's why I always push back on like the whole Ben Sinnott needs to play over Zach Ertz thing. Zach Ertz has been outside of Terry Horn the most productive receiver they've had, and because he's still very, very good at playing football, he is. I don't know how he does it, but he's constantly getting open, constantly getting separation. So to see him go down, that was pretty brutal.
It was pretty brutal. And the only thing I was going to add is I think the Giants have a relatively poor run defense, and I think we, in theory, should be seeing a heavy load of Chris Rodriguez, but you never know. I feel like we always, the game plan isn't always as apparent as it should be. Maybe I'm not sure.
So back to Jayden.
Went off a little bit of a tangent there.
Okay.
I thought it wasn't all necessarily bad from this game with Jayden. Brian Flores brings a really tough and complex blitz package that you have to really find answers to, and they had some answers and they didn't have some answers. But I thought there were some little signs of progress from Jayden in this, and I thought I'd just highlight those quickly before we switch to the defensive side of the ball. The one thing that stood out to me was Jayden was a lot more trusting in his protection in this game. And we've talked in recent weeks about how the offensive line, now that Cosme's back healthy and ramped up, and Connolly is developing and Chris Paul has got more set up, suddenly this offensive line is starting to look more confident and more comfortable and more of a cohesive unit like they were outstanding in the Broncos game. And I think they did a pretty good job picking up a lot of these blitzes in this game. It's just a really tough scheme to deal with.
They did a fantastic job. I think the offensive line did a great job. And Jeremy McNichols, I'm pretty sure this is the play, was fantastic again. They did a great job. And
so we've seen in the past that when teams blitz Jayden, he has a little tendency to kind of drift backwards in the pocket and then fade away from throws. And that's something that's kind of been consistent since he was drafted and in college as well. And in this game, I thought he did a really nice job of actually trusting his protection to pick things up. And you'll see it on this one where they use a double muck front. So they got both linebackers in the A-gap by the side of Tyler Biadasz. And they're running a check blitz. So basically, both of these guys are going to step forward. And whichever way Biadasz slides, that guy is going to drop into coverage and the other guy is going to rush, which forces McNichols to step up and block that guy. It's a really nice scheme. It means that Biotish can't be right whichever way he goes, because whichever way he goes, the linebacker is going to drop off and the other guy's going to rush.
Very
And so
cool.
what you're going to see is Biotish is going to slide left. This linebacker is going to step up, see Biotish sliding, and drop off into coverage, which is going to leave this linebacker to run and match up against McNichols. Now, McNichols does a hell of a job trying to pick this one up, but he does give up some ground. And traditionally, when Jayden Daniels has felt this pressure, he has dropped back and drifted back in the pocket. And what he does in this play is he fights that urge to drop back, and he stays at the top of his drop and actually climbs up. So you can see McNichols, we do have the end zone angle of this, so we'll see a better angle of it. But McNichols gets a nice chunk of this guy and actually knocks him over. And typically, you would see Jayden Daniels would see this flash of color and be like, okay, I need to keep drifting backwards. But you can see he hits the top of his drop here. And even though this guy is currently not blocked, yes, he's on the floor, but he's not currently blocked. He stands in there and holds onto the ball, trying to wait for one of these guys down the field to come open. Now, neither of them come open, and he calmly, even though this guy's getting back up and ready to hit him, he makes his little check down to Ben Sinnott. Yay, Ben Sinnott's getting a catch for once. And I thought it was a nice sign of progress. So we'll see it again. The scheme, again, is really nice. Forces Biotish to slide one way. He can't be right. And this is actually Chris Rodriguez. Sorry, this wasn't Jeremy McNichols. He goes and thumps this guy and knocks him over, but he doesn't sustain the block. And Jayden does a really nice job trusting his protection. This is, again, a play where Jayden would see this and typically take off scrambling or start drifting backwards to try to buy more time. And what you can see is he just continues with his drop, hits the top of his drop, and then is ready to find a throw down the field. He can't find one. He feels this guy getting back up, but he doesn't panic, and he resets to his check down and he finds his check down. Now that, to me, is a sign of progress that Jayden would not have done earlier in this year or certainly last year. We wouldn't have seen that kind of thing from him.
This is the block that
this is the McNichols one. Yeah. So this is the kind of sister scheme to that, where instead of dropping one off and rushing one, you just rush both of them and they kind of cross over, and it makes it really difficult. So
it's a cross dog from it's cross dog stunt from lined up from a double mug look, and I think it's probably the hardest thing to pick up for an offensive line unless you have a running back that can protect like this.
Yeah, so you've got 6 guys on the line of scrimmage. You got your 4 down. In fact, it might be 7 on the line of scrimmage. You got your 4 down linemen. You got the safety on the edge, and then you got both linebackers in the A gap. And what you're going to have is a simulated pressure. So it's only going to be 4 guys rushing, and you have technically 6 guys in to protect. But the tackles are expecting to block these edge rushers, so they fan out to the edge, and those guys drop off. Which means essentially what you're going to get is you're going to get the 2 interior guys working against Biotish and the running back. So we're going to see him step up and make this block again, and we'll see it from the end zone angle. But again, Jayden Daniels does not panic at this point. He does a really nice job. Again, he stays patient. Rather than falling backwards or taking off scrambling, he steps up in the pocket around the pressure. Now, this is where I'd like to see Jayden take the next step, which is, okay, that guy's run by me. I've got enough protection here. I can try to find a throw. Maybe Zach Ertz over the middle here. But I don't hate that he then tries to take off running and he goes and picks up a solid gain.
I think this one was one I kind of was in the same boat when I was watching it. It's kind of borderline of like whether or not you want him to throw that, but I was kind of thinking the same thing where I think he not panics, but feels it a little bit too much, and I'd like him to kind of calmly slide to his left instead of kind of take off and run. I get why he's doing it. It doesn't look like McNichols has it, but he makes a hell of a block. I know Nikki posted this clip, and it was a great thing to go through the comments and kind of see who understood football and who didn't, where half of the comments were saying, wow, McNichols sucks, and the other half was saying, wow, this is a fantastic block. This is a fantastic block.
This is a fantastic block. And it's a fantastic block by both of these guys because this is a really hard stunt to pick up because this guy, Biotish is sliding left to this guy, and this guy is just going to run straight into his hip. And very often on these pick stunts, it's this guy that runs the stunt that actually comes off free because the lineman is sliding the other way, expecting to block this guy. And what Biotish is able to do is force this guy across his face to the outside where he can then sustain the block. And then McNichols steps up and does his job. So let's just to appreciate the block. Again, Biotish slides left to pick up his initial guy. This guy just targets his hip. He just runs straight at his hip, runs into him, and Biotish does an excellent job getting his arm outside of the guy, forcing him across and shoving him inside, and that stops this guy from just peeling off and running straight to the quarterback and getting the sack. So that is a really nice job by Tyler Biadasz. And then let's give McNichols his props. Like, this is a really, really hard block for a running back to make, and he does a good job of, when this stunt happens, he's thinking he's got to block this guy. Suddenly that guy is going to Biadasz, and suddenly he's got a new guy that he has to adjust and pick up, and he has to reset his feet and start working, and he fights hard, just does enough to stay engaged. And Jayden Daniels, again, to his credit, this is not something he would have done in the past. Typically in the past, he would have taken off running to his left, or drifted backwards in the pocket. If he drifts backwards here, he just plays into this guy's hands by giving him more room to just keep running and making it really hard for McNichols. By sliding to his left, he lets McNichols recover and run him by him. And McNichols does exactly that. He recovers and runs it by him. And this is where you'd like to see Jayden just reset his feet.
Yeah, I think that move to the left, I think, is a little too aggressive in terms of, like, again, we're being nitpicky here, but like, what I would really like to see from my quarterback is kind of sort of calmly drift to the left, kind of calmly sense that, and then kind of get yourself in position to throw. Because you can see from this position that you've got Ertz, that you can make this throw. You've got a closing safety on him, but you can make this throw. Obviously, he's got to deal with that pressure, but you want him to kind of calmly drift to the left. And that's kind of, a big thing that fans don't see a lot of times, is this pocket manipulation, basically, from quarterbacks, is how you can manage pressure. And that takes time. It's going to take a lot of time for some guys to figure that out, but that's kind of what I would like for him to do here. And you can also make the argument that once he steps up, he still can make this throw to Ertz.
Yeah, and what Nick's talking about is you want to maintain your posture to be able to throw the ball. And what Jayden does here is he turns his feet over, so his back foot becomes his front foot, and it's impossible to throw the ball over the middle of the field with his back foot in front of his front foot. So you can see he kind of flips it over here, and at this point he's becoming a runner.
Hey, if he was a lefty, this is fantastic. This is perfect posture to throw it if you're a lefty.
Yeah, so it's impossible for him to currently, in this position, throw this ball to Zach Ertz because his feet are just not properly aligned. So then he gets himself realigned, and Ertz is a smart guy. He recognizes, I've got a safety here, but I can run back towards you and help you out. You can see he's giving ground to give Jayden an option. I don't hate it at this point to be like, okay, I've not done as well as I could have done in just sliding, and I'm just going to make the play myself. I don't hate this play from Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, no, it was like second and 12 or something like that.
Yeah,
I think you got about half of it back, so it's perfectly fine, perfectly acceptable. Again, he doesn't take a hit. Can you go back to the end zone? I just want to watch the block one more time. It's beautiful.
I mean, you guys are exactly right. Like, obviously over the years we've been watching Tom Brady. Tom Brady can manipulate the pocket better than anybody, where a blitzer would come in and slowly slide to the left and have that throwing window. I'm just curious, Jayden Daniels, obviously, a couple of things that go through my mind. He's an excellent athlete. He's probably like, hey, I can get away with this, because I'm so athletic, and maybe jump to the left and kind of run. And another option could be he's been getting blitzed all day long, maybe a tiny bit. He's like, you know what? There's been a lot of pressure in my face. I got to create on my own potentially. I don't know if you guys agree with that potentially, but I don't know.
Yeah, he's always kind of had that hero mindset, and that's why he takes a lot of hits, because he does believe that he can turn any play into a huge one. And you kind of have to slowly teach that out of him while also having him keep that mindset. It's a very tough balance to kind of find. Like Josh Allen kind of has sort of mastered it at this point, where he can kind of put the cape on and become a hero, but then he also kind of knows when he doesn't need to do that. It helps when you're Josh Allen, when you're built like Josh Allen, and you can take those hits. Jayden is not built like that. So kind of, I found that like some quarterbacks who have this kind of mindset, they either go one way or the other. They either stay super, super aggressive, or they go completely the opposite way and get way too conservative, never take off, always throwing it away. So you're trying to find that balance, and that comes with more reps, and that kind of goes back to the conversation of should he or should he not play.
That's what I was thinking.
So it's a tough spot. It's a really tough spot that they're in, and it's why it's super frustrating to not have him play, because these are, as bad as this team is, every single rep matters. Everything is important. So it's a tough spot
reps with this offensive line. Now that he's got this unit that you can trust, and you can see from
I was shocked that they did as well as they did to pick all of this up. Not having Jayden the last couple of weeks and being able to pick up all of these pressures, they did a really, really good job of it.
And that is the the thing to hang your hat on as a Commanders fan right now is that going to the off season, you've got pretty much the entire offensive line set, and you've got your quarterback set, and that can be a strong foundation as any for building a team in an off season. So,
is Chris Paul a priority resign in your opinion?
He's a tricky one because yes, ideally you'd like to have him back, but we saw last year in free agency that like backup offensive linemen that showed a flash of like 5 decent games were getting like 20 million a year to go start elsewhere. So and if he's going to get 20 million a year, then absolutely not. But if he's going to be affordable and they can get something done before he hits the open market, then absolutely. But yeah, that's a bigger conversation for the offseason. Speaking of Chris Paul, he does a nice job here helping Tyler Biadasz out by knocking this guy over.
And last mention on the block, you'll see a lot of running backs, instead of handling this stunt, they'll either chase their first guy because his assignment is that first guy and hang on to that whole time, or see the stunt, leave it alone, and pick up the second guy, and then you've left your center in a terrible spot. Biadasz can't make this block if McNichols doesn't chip him right there. It's just physically impossible. So to make that chip and then recover is fantastic. That's my favorite play of the game.
It's really good by everyone involved, and it's also good from Jayden. As I say, it's progress. He's still got progress to go, as we've talked about, where we'd like him to maintain his posture to be able to throw the ball. But for him to step up and avoid this pressure and let McNichols recover that is something that he wouldn't have done this point last year. He would have almost immediately started taking off scrambling or drifted backwards and made it impossible for McNichols to recover. So he is progressing. It's just he needs to. There's more steps to go. And he's a second-year quarterback. Of course, there's more steps to go. So I think that was enough of Jayden. I thought we wanted to probably talk a little bit about the defense. So let me flip over to my defensive clips here, and let me just resize this because this has got massive on my screen now, and I can't see you guys anymore. Right. And Nick, I don't know if you wanted to take over this or whether you wanted me to run.
I can take this. I just got to present my screen real quick. I can take this because I grabbed a bunch of random clips. I don't have them nicely drawn up like you, but I do.
Yeah, let me know when you're ready. I can pull it up for you.
Yeah.
Maybe Mark, walk us through this first one while Nick's getting ready.
Yeah, if you like. So essentially,
I got it.
You got it?
Oh, you got it.
Okay.
You want it?
All right, here we go. Let me switch it up real quick.
Yes. So mine's in chronological order. This is kind of there's always been a lot of questions about whether it's scheme, whether it's players, and it's always been both. So this play is kind of a good example of where the scheme is kind of failing them. So it's 2nd and 1 here, and you've got enough players in the box. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in the box. You have enough to defend this.
Switch it to mine, George, because I've got it drawn up on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll run it over, and then you've got it nicely drawn up.
Yeah.
It was this play, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you got 7 in the box here, but the fundamental problem here is you don't have both A gaps covered in this play. Sometimes you'll have kind of this front setup and you'll kind of slant guys into the A gap, but they don't have that at all here. They have one A gap filled with Bobby Wagner, but now you're, requiring 3rd level defenders, Martin or Harris, to come in and fill the A gap when you've got a team lined up under center like this. It just doesn't make any sense. It's not a sound front. It doesn't really make any sense for them to do that. And as you can see, it fails pretty miserably here. Actually, it's really not as bad as it could have been.
Martin makes a lot worse.
Martin makes a pretty damn good tackle here for 5 yards, but
yeah, Martin feels this way better than he should have. But you can see immediately the problem.
Like there's no one there, so
there's no one in the gap that they are targeting, right?
Yep.
And he runs right up to it, and Martin does a really nice job. McGee also does a pretty good job working over the top from the backside. I think C gap that he might have been in, and they get across to make that play. But fundamentally, if we run this back. They've got
that's just not a sound front. It's just not.
Yeah, they typically what you would see is a safety would come down in the box and Lugu would line up in this A gap, or what you would do is you would have these linebackers read it. So you'd have Wagner would see that they run the ball this way, and so he would then loop into this A gap, and you'd have Jordan McGee loop into the A gap that Wagner's responsible for, and then that can delay the run enough so that Quan Martin has time to come up and fill this gap that Jordan McGee's covering. But they don't do that. The other one that Nick talked about is, you have Sheldon Day here. He could stunt into this A gap because you've got Johnny Newton on the edge here who's stunting in, and you've got Frankie Louvu who's scraping to the edge to replace Johnny Newton. So you could potentially stunt in here and try to steal that gap back by stunting this front, which is a risky way, but it's a way that a lot of teams do it, is they stunt their front to try to steal a gap back from being light in the box with your two safeties back deep. And again, if you're stunting into the A gap, stunting into the B, and you're scraping to the edge, that buys Will Harris time to get down into the box and fill one of the outer gaps as well. But they don't do that. They just play it straight up across here. Sheldon Day plays it straight up, and they do a little stunt here. And again, it just leaves that A gap wide open.
Everyone on this play has done their job, but their job is they can't cover this A gap, which just doesn't make any sense to me. Great tackle by Quan Martin.
Hell of a tackle.
But it's 2nd and 1, and that's a 5-yard gain, so it's tough.
Right, we can switch back to Nick now. I just wanted to show that play. I know I had it drawn up.
So the very next play was the first touchdown of the game, and it's just a kind of simple. I'm pretty sure this is just Haas juke. Yeah, Haas concept. Mark might not have this drawn up or does, but seams from both inside receivers. You got a juke route here from the inside receiver, and then outside hitches. It's a great play against cover 3, but again, there's answers everywhere for McCarthy. You could hit Hawkinson, you could hit Oliver, you can hit both of them. The big thing here for me is this is kind of when it comes back down to, the scheme kind of failed them here. Yeah, it's cover 3. You got beat with the wrong call, but this is where you would like your players to kind of step up and play this better. So the outside corner up at the top here, I believe that's Mikey. Yeah, he plays it about as well as you can. He's able to get there, but when you have this sort of thing, you want your hook defenders. So that's Bobby Wagner on this play. I believe that's Louvu or McGee. That's McGee at the bottom. You want your hook defenders to get depth on this play because the seams are always vulnerable against cover 3. So Wagner, to me, I'm not sure where he's looking or why he's focused on this, but he needs to get depth here to protect this seam. And he doesn't, and it makes it an easy throw and a pretty much impossible play for Sanderson to kind of to make up. And then at the bottom of the screen, you can see when a corner doesn't play it correctly. You got Jones on the outside here, late to kind of recognize the seam. So McCarthy's got both options. Obviously takes the left side because the safety's cheating over the right, but if he wants to take the right side, he just throws it to the back shoulder of Hawkinson, and you've got an easy touchdown on both sides there.
I'm very happy you highlighted this play, and I'm not sure you guys caught it. This was like a very hot topic and a very provocative play, polarizing play on the media this week. And I thought that, like Mikey Sanderson played it pretty well. Like, it seemed like, for one, it seemed like a great play call. It's a cover 3 zone. There's a seam beater right up the middle. Like, the defense is at a disadvantage. I felt like, just like you, Nick, Bobby Wagner maybe should have disrupted the wide receiver a little bit, maybe dropped back a little bit, made it a little bit harder for J.J. McCarthy, because Sanders still did make up ground. But I mean, he was like a beat slow on the disruption, and I felt like it wasn't really on him. But talking to the fan base, talking to people that were online, they were like, Sanders had a horrible game. Like, did I assess that correctly, or what are your thoughts? It seems like we're on the same page.
Yeah, I don't think that this was a bad play at all by Sanders. So it's all on in my opinion, it's all on Wagner for not getting depth here, because you've put your corner in a spot. So you can kind of, like I said, you can see the difference in how you want your corner to play this. So once you recognize this seam here, you can look at Sanders still, he's breaking on it, and then look at the bottom of the screen, you see Jonathan Jones, who's not breaking on it. So that's the difference basically here. You got 3 yards of difference on the two sides, and that's why I don't think Sanders still is too bad here. You just don't have any depth to kind of shut this window down at all.
You can also ask the flat defender to be disrupting that seam route a little bit, because you can see, I think it's Frankie Louvu that's lined up over the top of Hawkinson there.
Get better hands on him.
You barely touched him, right?
Yeah, barely touched him. And when you get that seam route from that slot, you want your flat defender, as they widen, you want them to be able to disrupt that route to give that corner outside a chance to get back to it if that is the way it's going. And he didn't really touch him at all, and so it was pretty much a free release, which made it too easy.
So next up here, Mark, you might actually have this one.
Which one's this?
It's where they bring everybody up and they don't have anyone in the A gap.
Yeah, I do have this one.
Yeah, Mark, get it set up. I can pull you up whenever you're ready.
Yeah, you can do that now. It's getting to it. Well, this isn't the one, but the next play. Here we go. Yeah. So to set it up, we've got 3 receivers over this on a little bunch set over to the right of the formation here. And we've got Frankie Louvu walked outside over them. You got Bobby Wagner inside. You got Jonathan Jones on the outside, and the safety's deep. The other safety is Will Harris here. He's on this side, working as the tight end, and you got Mikey Sammer still on the outside here. So essentially, you've got a bad look out here numbers wise. And what they're going to do is they're going to bring Frankie Louvu is actually going to come up to the edge late and rush off the edge. As part of the rusher, he's going to be the edge rusher, and you can see Johnny Newton is working across, and he's going to line up on the edge, but he's going to start inside, and Louvu's going to come off the edge. And what that's going to do is it's going to leave 3 receivers outside against essentially 1 corner. So Bobby Wagner's put in basically an impossible spot. He can either try to fill this inside and just ignore the possibility that this could be an RPO and they could throw outside 3v1, which could be potentially a touchdown. Or he can try to get outside to help Jonathan Jones and make a play out here, hoping that they will still try to throw the ball 3v2, which is still a bad matchup for the defense, but that leaves a hole for the offense, and we'll see it. I've got it drawn up on the end zone angle. But you can see here, Bobby Wagner's in this impossible spot right now because he's responsible for a gap inside here, and we'll see it from the end zone angle, the gap that he's meant to cover. But there's still 3 guys over here that currently it's just Jonathan Jones against that. That's not a good look for the defense, and Wagner can't really be right either way he goes here. If this is an RPO, this is getting thrown out here, and both of them are getting blocked, and it's a big play. If it's a run, then Bobby Wagner's frozen because he can't fill his gap, and it turns out to be a run, and we'll get it from the end zone angle. And
either way, it's a big play. Like if they throw it or pass it, it's a big play. It's
lose either way. So what they're actually doing here is you can see Louvu's going to rush off the edge. You're going to have Johnny Newton stunting inside the tackle into the B gap, and you're going to have I don't know which defensive tackle. I think it's Eddie Goldman.
Yeah,
instead of just stunting into the A gap, he stunts into the opposite A gap. So he goes across 2 gaps, and what that does is it essentially leaves this A gap open, which is what Bobby Wagner would be responsible for. But again, we talked about it. Bobby Wagner is put in an impossible position where you can see he's out here thinking this could be an RPO. I'm screwed either way. The other alternate option here is you'd have Jordan McGee try to slide across. But what you have is Deron Payne gets pushed inside, and essentially these 2 get stuck in the same gap. You've also got Mikey Sammer still basically doing nothing on the edge out here. And you've got 2 guys in the same gap out here. You've got 2 guys in the same gap here. You've got these guys running a clearly a designed stunt, and then you've got no guy here to clean that up. So what it leaves you with is there's multiple gaps that the running back could hit. He hits the obvious A gap that Bobby Wagner can't fill, but he could quite easily hit this gap because you've got 2 guys on the edge out here with no one, with Sammer still and this defensive lineman on the edge. So he could take this front side, but obviously he takes it backside, hits that A gap, and there's just no way that Wagner could be responsible for both of those options.
Yeah, in an ideal world, you would want McGee to get over the top, but it's a tough ask to do when he's mugged up like this, where you don't really have. It's not like he's playing 4 yards back where he can kind of bait and fall back. He's this close to the line of scrimmage, so it's tough to not have a offensive lineman get hands on you.
So and real quickly,
stunting.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, no, it's just you've got guys stunting as well, so it makes it even harder. There's more traffic for him to be able to get across because you can see Payne, I think this is Deron Payne, stunts across, and you got Goldman stunting across, so it makes it really hard for McGee when he's in this position on the line of scrimmage to then work his way around those guys. You can see that Payne stunts across, Goldman stunting across, and it makes it really hard for McGee to have then. If he'd started off the line of scrimmage, he would fill this quickly. But because he's on the line of scrimmage, he has to circle around these guys, loop around them to get to that spot. It's just a really, really tough ask for McGee to do.
So my one question was, with Eddie Goldman right there, was that a miss calculation on his part? Was he supposed to go in the one A gap? He went to the wrong A gap, or the intention was to go 2 gaps over?
It looks like he's supposed to long scoop this into the other A gap. At least that's what I'm reading.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It could be that he's meant to do this, but because Payne stunts as well, it suggests that he's probably is meant to get into that gap. because otherwise you'd think Payne would, if you just take this on this side of the line of scrimmage, you'd think Sammer still fits the edge. Whoever this is, Kinlaw fits inside here, McGee fits the B gap, Payne fits the A gap. And then you've got these three guys here. In theory, you could have Golden stunt in here, Newton stunt in here, and Luger off the edge, and then you've got every gap accounted for. But Payne stunts out here, so that suggests Goldman is also meant to stunt, and that means that they need someone to fill this A gap. Maybe Newton was meant to stunt as well, but then you still that just moves the gap from the A gap to the B gap.
Yeah.
That's open.
You're still getting gashed. So
I was wondering what's the benefit of having a 2 gap over? Maybe Bobby Wagner's supposed to fill that hole, but then he got pulled because of the pass potentially. Or
essentially,
okay.
you force the issue. You disrupt the blocking scheme by having a guy go. Like, there's no way this center is expecting to have to block.
The solution is you just can't call this against what is essentially a 4x1, I believe, with including the running back. You just can't call this against that formation.
Got it.
You got to be able to check out of this.
Got it.
So that was that one. I don't know if you had more, Nick.
I did. We can end it on this one because it talks about Mikey Sanders still again. This is another one where I'm chalking it up to I don't know what we're doing on defense here, scheme wise. Do you have mine up?
Yep. It's up. Yep.
All right.
I do have this as well, but you're right. You're fine. You go.
So what we're playing here on defense is a cover 6. It's a 2 high shell. Cover 6 means you get cover 2 on one side, cover 4 on the other side. They're going to play 2 over here to the field to the top of the screen, and they're going to play quarters to the bottom of the screen. That's a perfectly fine call. That's I'm okay with that. That makes perfect sense. As you can see at the top of the screen, they get this covered perfectly. This is exactly what you kind of want here. But at the bottom of the screen, I'm not entirely sure what we're doing. Actually, this is cover 3, not even cover 6. But either way, the result is the same. Where you're playing cover 3, Will Harris kind of has a seam adjustment here, where he wants to take this. He's got to always be aware of this. Receiver, the third receiver coming from the opposite side of the field. So typically when you have this, you have your outside third defender down here playing pretty much man coverage. A lot of times people will press their corner here. You'll play press man coverage basically, and it's just man-to-man down here, and the rest of them are playing cover 3. For whatever reason, Sanders still is off the ball by 8 yards here. I believe it's 3rd and 8. Yeah, it's 3rd and 8, and he's off the ball 8 yards here. He's just got absolutely no chance with how he's, supposed to line up to even come close to making a play on this ball.
So you can the thing I push back on is you can play man from off in this situation, but you have to be flat-footed on it. You have to be thinking that there's probably going to be some sort of speed out or break that you can jump down on underneath.
So that kind of comes down to what are we kind of being taught here? Why are we not flat-footed in this sort of situation? Yeah, like Mark said, you don't have to press this, because if you press it, it kind of gives away the sort of intention of it. But not being flat-footed and kind of flip turning like this and kind of dropping to a third like you are at the top of the screen here just doesn't make any sense for this defense, and it's an easy throw.
Yeah, because when you're talking about a cover 3 defense, right, you've got a flat defender in the flat to protect you against those out routes, right? Because if you have a flat defender working underneath that, it's a lot closer, more of a closed window, and you have the flexibility that Sanders still tries to use here to sink back deeper, stay over the top of everything. But as Nick said, because there's trips to the other side of the field, and they're working to the other side of the field, essentially this becomes what would be called a meg check, where it's man everywhere he goes, and Sanders still just has to front up and play man to man rather than a cover 3 technique, which is what he's doing here. He's quite clearly playing cover 3. He opens up inside, he opens his hips inside, and he's preparing himself to turn and run deep to stay on top of things, but he needs to play it flat-footed so that he can essentially match up man-to-man and break a lot quicker on that out route. Because he's opened up inside, as soon as that receiver starts breaking outside, he's then got to do a lot of work with his feet and his hips to flip himself back across to get outside, and by the time he's done that, the guy's already broken 3 yards outside of him and caught the ball. So
prime Darrell Revis is not making the play if this is the route that's being run here with this kind of technique. There's just no shot. So that kind of comes down to, again, what are we really doing on defense here? Because now you've got Wagner and Harris both looking for the number 3 receiver from the backside, which, so again, maybe Sanderson is expecting Harris to play this like a typical, curl flat defender here. I don't know. But again, it's another play where it's just way, way, way too easy.
Someone's doing something wrong. Either Sanderson's doing something wrong, or someone was responsible to play the flat and get underneath that route to make it a lot harder, and nobody was there. And so there was a bust one way or another.
There's been miscommunication all year long, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yep. And we'll end it with this one where it's...
Yeah, do you want to see this one, actually?
This isn't scheme. This is just, again, kind of high school level mistakes here. Not to pick on Sanders still, but you're the outside player. You have to keep outside contain no matter what. There's no reason to even take a step inside and then loses outside contain and it's over. So just a tough play.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, guys, we're going to kind of bring it on to closure in regard to the defense. I guess my question to you is, where do we go from here, I guess, right? So, moving forward, we have Dan Quinn calling the defensive plays. Is there anything you're looking for? Are you encouraged by what Dan Quinn's potentially doing? Like, I'm kind of throwing some different questions at you. Like, what's going on?
I think they did a really nice job in the Broncos game of pairing up coverages so that I think we broke this down last week, didn't we, on the show, where you paired up coverages so that he baited Sean Payton into thinking, they showed cover 3 in this look last time. Oh, actually, it's quarters this time, or something like that. And he did a really nice job of doing that. But that is basically the only weapon in his arsenal right now, is to try to mix and match those coverages. And you never really know what the offense is going to call, and you have to just hope that they are going to call something that attacks the coverage that they think you're playing, and you're actually switching it up. If they
trapping them,
you have to hope that the trap works and they run into the trap. If they don't run into that trap, your hands are tied, and Dan Quinn can't really do a hell of a lot else with the current unit as is. And the Vikings did not fall into any traps this week,
would you credit Kevin O'Connell for that?
Sure, like the Vikings did a decent job, but any team in theory, if they don't fall into those traps, and especially as they're basically getting zero pressure up front, they're not getting
zero is generous. Like there's nothing up there. There's absolutely nothing. So it just makes your whole defense that much harder to do. So I don't know. I've gone back and forth with this, but like at some point you have to be competitive, and like they are not. There's been one game that they've been competitive in, and that's it. And that's pretty damning.
And it is tough for DQ at this point because he's limited in what he can do. He's down his top 2 edge rushers, or his top 3 edge rushers, and he's down his top 2 corners. So they basically have to just play zone and hope that they can confuse people and buy the pass rush some time to get home. And even then, when they have been successful in confusing people, the pass rush hasn't been getting home. So like it's a tough spot for DQ to be in. I have sympathy for him in that regard, but at the same time, like Nick said, you do still have to try to be competitive. I think the injuries at this point have taken a toll on the defense. They definitely aren't doing what DQ wants to do, and I think that is just down to they don't have the personnel to do it at this point. And even when they did earlier in the year, they weren't executing the stuff that DQ and Joe Witt wanted to do earlier in the year. So it's not an easy position to be in. But the stuff like the run fits that we saw, that is all stuff that like the coaching staff should be doing a better job of making sure that they're getting those run fits right. Because you can't leave the play side A gap uncovered. That's basic. And so, those are things that they do have to correct, and that's stuff that the DQ and his staff should be on top of. But I do have some sympathy for him at this point because they're getting no pass rush. They don't have the corners to play man. They basically are stuck trying to confuse people with different zone coverages, but there's only it works for a little amount of time. But at a certain point, it's like, well, we know you're going to run cover 3 quarters, cover 6. what else? Maybe Tampa 2.
He tried to. There were some other clips that I was going to show. He tried to switch it up with one of the weirdest cover sixes I've ever seen. It didn't work at all, but he is at least trying to sort of switch it up.
Yeah, and that's literally all he can do is try to confuse guys with those different zones, because they just don't have the bodies to do anything else right now.
Yeah, gentlemen, definitely an interesting case study. Thank you for the film breakdown this week. We saw Jayden Daniels going against Brian Flores. We saw the defensive struggles against the Vikings. We have a divisional matchup against the Giants next week against Jackson Dart, and we'll see how this defense matches up with another rookie quarterback this week. Thank you to the 638 people that watch us live today. We greatly appreciate that. Give us a follow on Mark Bullock and Nick Ackridge on their accounts, on Substack for Mark Bullock as well. Follow Nick's work on PFF. We are on YouTube at the Big Doug and Carmi Show, and we'll see you guys again next Wednesday against the Commanders Film Room with a review of the New York Giants. Take care, guys. Peace.